Teslas are being torched across the country. Dealerships shot up and set on fire. Spray paint to vandalize and make a statement. People in Southern California are getting notes on their Teslas, calling them complicit Nazis for owning electric cars.
They don't burn flags, they burn cars. They don't shout slogans, they whisper Elon Musk's name with hatred. Once upon a time, Tesla was a symbol of the future, the pride of Silicon Valley, an icon of sustainable progress. Today, it is ashes on the streets of Los Angeles, flooded showrooms in Berlin, and devalued stocks on Wall Street monitors. What is happening now is not just the fall of a company. It is the collapse of a legend that millions believed in. People who waited in line for years for the Model 3 are now smashing car dealership windows. Investors who poured billions into the company yesterday are fleeing today, dumping shares at such a rate that the Nasdaq can't keep up. What happened to Tesla?
I mean, the things that he's doing is not trying to make America better. He's ruining our infrastructure, every department in our government. He's ruining, and he's right now destroying our economy. He's taken away all of our allies. We're a pariah in the world.
In this video, we'll show you the collapse in detail, not the boring graphs that analysts publish, but the real live picture with burning Cybertrucks, hacked charging stations, and protests in San Francisco, where posters now feature a crossed-out lightning bolt instead of the Tesla logo. We'll tell you how one political alliance changed everything. How Musk went from being a hero of progressive America to a toxic symbol of political polarization. How car dealerships in Paris began removing logos from their windows to avoid vandalism. How Chinese giants who were copying Tesla just 2 years ago have now taken the lead and are driving it out of its own market.
Does that help Tesla? I mean, you had Tim Waltz, who was a huge jerk, right, you know.
But that's not the worst of it. The worst thing is the silence within the company. Those who knew the truth are gone. The CFO, Musk's brother, old comrades in arms, they all fled, and no one said why. They sold their shares before the storm hit. Before the signal came from Washington, not a penny more in subsidies. Before a wave of Tesla cancellations swept across Europe, what did they know? Why did they flee? And why are government agencies now openly strangling the company with bureaucratic measures?
Running around on stage with the Tesla stock price, where the stock price had gone in half. And he was overjoyed. What an evil thing to do. What a creep, what a jerk. Like who derives joy?
Tesla doesn't just sell cars, it has always sold faith. Faith in the future. Faith in technology. Faith in Musk. But what if it's all a hoax? What if the autopilot we believed in is just a publicity stunt? What if the accidents, casualties, and lawsuits are just the beginning of a chain reaction that will destroy the very idea of autonomous driving?
Well, this feels more like a Tesla-only story when you look at just this fall in EV sales for them, that they're suffering across Europe, down 45% in January. The wider EV market in Europe up 37%, so rivals are catching up and performing.
We're not just showing you Tesla's decline. We will show you how a new reality is emerging, one in which Elon Musk is no longer the savior, but the accused, where Tesla is not progress, but failure. And perhaps you will understand the main thing. Everything we believed in for the last 10 years turned out to be just an illusion, shattered against the windshield of reality. Collapse does not always leave behind loud headlines. Sometimes it begins with silence. With empty car dealerships, silent support operators, and flickering boards that once displayed rapid stock growth. This is exactly how Tesla's decline began, not with an explosion, but with an alarming void. While journalists were still debating whether this was a fall or a temporary dip, the first protests were already raging in cities across the US and Europe. They carried a new name, Tesla Takedown. And it wasn't just a wave of discontent. It was a harbinger of the end.
Outperforming as well in some cases, doing better than Tesla. And you just have to think, how much more is this a sustained issue for Tesla going forward, given the fact that you have Elon Musk, who's been very forthright in his opinions, particularly weighing in on politics, particularly in Europe. We've just had the European elections, which Musk has been very focused on. But across the piece, when you look at the performance for Tesla in Europe, it's not just in small countries. There are a lot of countries where Tesla has been performing badly, including in Germany, in the UK, where it has been lagging, and Spain as well.
In Manhattan, protesters set fire to a Cybertruck right at the entrance to a dealership. In Berlin, activists chained themselves to Tesla charging stations, and posters bore slogans such as "Musk is a climate traitor" and "Tesla is killing trust." In Paris, Los Angeles, San Francisco, everywhere, where fans of the brand once lined up, now angry cries could be heard. In 1 week, more than 500 coordinated protests took place around the world. And the participants were not marginal figures, but people who just yesterday proudly wore T-shirts with the Tesla logo. The media could barely keep up with what was happening. In Austin, according to local reporters, Tesla staff closed the store early for fear of attack. In Seattle, unknown individuals smashed the showroom window and wrote "Go back to Mars" in blood-red paint on the wall. Leaked internal emails revealed real panic among the management. Top managers called for urgent security measures and changes to employee schedules to avoid direct contact with aggressors. Some showrooms hired private security firms, not to protect the cars, but to protect their employees.
Well, you will hear people over in Europe say the new Model Y, the Juniper, could be a difference maker, but that's been in that market now for more than a month. And you would think that you'd see a greater snapback if it's going to be a difference maker. Look, we could be wrong. It could be a difference maker once you get the sales for April, May, and June. But when you have a country like Norway, I think the sales were down something like 11% there. I mean, that's a very savvy EV consumer in Norway. And that's long been a strength for Tesla. Very small market, not huge volume, but I think almost all of the vehicles they sell there are electric. And they embrace Tesla long before others. And, you know, the reports there are not encouraging.
But behind all this violence and chaos lay something deeper, a loss of faith. Tesla has always lived not so much on technology as on myth, on the belief that the future is already here, and it is being assembled in a factory in California. That belief has collapsed, and it has collapsed quietly but irrevocably. Dealer attendance fell by 40% in key countries, the US, Norway, and Germany. One of the largest showrooms in London cut its hours not because of the holidays, but because no one was coming into the building. People no longer dreamed of the Model Y. They avoided it. One might think that this was all just a short-lived frenzy. But then the numbers came crashing down. Tesla's market capitalization fell by $110 billion in just a few days. Investors who once considered the company untouchable began to pull out. A Scandinavian car-sharing startup canceled a major contract with Tesla, calling it a reputational risk. Google searches for how to cancel a Tesla order rose 300%. And now the brand was associated not with dreams of autonomy, but with burned-out cars and graffiti on the asphalt. And then came the blow from where Tesla felt like a Queen China.
That's from the European Automobile Manufacturers Association. People just choosing with their wallets to not buy Teslas because of that Musk-Trump association. And actually here in London, an activist group called Everyone Hates Elon actually have been hacking bus stop signs with posters. I actually passed one yesterday. First, I wasn't quite sure what was happening, but it said the words 0 to 1939 in 3 seconds. Illusion here, 0 to 60 in like 3 seconds or something. But this poster was alluding to the start of World War II, and the image was of Musk giving that hand salute that we saw at Trump's inauguration that many have attacked as a Nazi gesture. Musk, though, has neither admitted or denied what he was doing. But we're seeing the knock-on effect of that anti-Musk anger across Europe and in terms of sales.
The Gigafactory in Shanghai, which produced almost half of all Tesla cars in the world, began to slow down production. The Chinese authorities, which had previously showered the company with subsidies and tax breaks, turned their backs on it. Support was now directed towards local champions BYD, NIO and XPeng. Tesla's sales in China fell by 48% in a quarter. At the same time, BYD doubled its sales. In major cities, the Model Y ceased to be a status symbol. It was replaced by BYD's bright red Han with a sticker saying "Made in China for China." State television channels launched a campaign against Tesla. The Central Channel aired a story accusing Tesla of espionage, claiming that cameras in the cars were transmitting data abroad. Government employees were ordered to give up their Tesla cars. Tesla was banned from military zones. The effect was immediate. Trust vanished. A post on Weibo about the espionage allegations garnered 80 million views before it was deleted. Whether it was true or not no longer mattered. In China, perception is more important than facts.
371. Most were saying 350 to 360. Now they're coming in at 336,068. Production of 362,615. So for some point of reference here, you're going back to Q2, maybe Q1 of 2022 in terms of the last time that they had production this or deliveries this low for one quarter. So again, Tesla deliveries worse than expected at just over 336,000 deliveries in the first quarter. Guys, I'll send it back to you.
That's horrible. Can I just ask Phil, how about the Cybertruck? How's that doing? You got a little inventory there in the Cybertruck?
Musk immediately flew to Beijing. The meeting with representatives of the Ministry of Industry was short and cold. No press, no photos, no final statement. A week later, the factory in Shanghai laid off 3,000 workers. Local suppliers complained about payment delays. Rumors about the closure of one of the assembly shops became reality. Some partners openly switched to competitors.
Over the last couple of months. But the other thing that this could potentially be is an attempt at readjustment or correction by the Trump administration, in that one of Trump's closest kind of allies and supporters, and someone who's clearly very influential in the administration, is coming out to kind of push back against the recently implemented policies. So I'm thinking, or maybe hopeful is the right word, that this might be a signal that the administration is considering walking back some of those policies.
The same thing was happening in Europe, but with a different face. In Germany, Tesla was losing market share to Volkswagen. In France, a tax audit of battery deliveries began. In Stockholm, the showroom was pelted with rotten tomatoes, a symbol of popular contempt. Journalists did not shy away from headlines such as "Innovation does not save from collapse." But the culture hit the hardest. YouTube bloggers who had previously praised every feature of the autopilot were now releasing exposes with headlines like 10 reasons why I gave up on Tesla.
We've accomplished more in 43 days than most administrations accomplished in 4 years or 8 years, and we are just getting started.
He praised all the domestic actions he has taken so far on immigration.
And I deployed the U.S. military and border patrol to repel the invasion of our country.
And spending cuts.
We are draining the swamp. It's very simple.
This was particularly evident with the Cybertruck. The car that was supposed to be a symbol of the future became an object of ridicule. Memes flooded the internet. Some compared it to an armored personnel carrier from a dystopian novel, others to a design failure. Worse still, public contempt turned into real action. In Los Angeles, a car with Tesla license plates was vandalized in a parking lot near a university campus. In Chicago, Cybertruck owners reported that their cars were being scratched, spat on, and photographed with scathing comments such as "Here's the icon of destroyed progress." In New York, protesters blocked the entrance to one of the service centers, demanding that the company answer for its lies.
Tesla shares have slumped by more than 9% amid a fall in sales in Europe. The electric vehicle maker posted lower sales across 5 European countries, including France and the UK. Joining us now to discuss this is CBS News foreign correspondent Remi Inocencio. Remi, why do we believe these sales are dropping? What's driving that?
Sure. Well, Errol, basically what Elon Musk has been talking about over the past, say, few months, ever since Donald Trump's election back to the White House, that has been fueling this anger, this frustration. Some even say disgust towards Musk, and they're taking it out on Tesla. Tesla now feeling the pain. But because of what's happening here in Europe, Tesla sales fell by nearly half across the continent just last month, 45%.
These departures were not accompanied by press releases, thank you speeches, or moves to other companies. They were silent, cold, and that only added to the panic. Whispers began to circulate. They saw the numbers, the ones that aren't shown in investor presentations, the ones that speak of the true rate of decline, of unfulfilled commitments, of brand toxicity. The wave continued. Marketers, PR directors, even engineers from the autopilot department left. Profiles with the same text appeared on LinkedIn: work experience Tesla, 2019 to 2025. Reason for leaving, personal. But it was no secret to anyone that personal meant I'm getting out of here.
Canada, the largest supplier of steel to the U.S., slapping new tariffs on $20 billion worth of U.S. goods that are sold in Canada. And the 27 countries of the European Union imposing retaliatory tariffs on up to $28 billion worth of U.S. goods sold in Europe, including Harley-Davidson motorcycles and Kentucky bourbon. President Trump with the Irish Prime Minister visiting the White House today. The president suggesting his tariffs won't stop here, saying, "Of course, I'm going to respond." And tonight, right here, the new poll showing 56% of Americans disapprove of President Trump's handling of the economy. The number's even worse now on the president's tariffs.
And then it was Wall Street's turn. What started as whispers among analysts quickly turned into a full-blown avalanche. Funds began to dump their shares. At first cautiously, bit by bit, then openly. One of the largest hedge fund managers on the East Coast completely withdrew its positions from Tesla, citing high reputational and political risks. 5 others followed suit. In 1 month, the company's market capitalization fell by 40%. Forecasts that had recently promised $1,500 per share were now down to $400. Some reports stated bluntly, this is not a correction. This is destruction.
Hey Diane, this investigation really just beginning, and one of the key elements will of course be the surveillance video, and investigators potentially have a lot of it to work with as they try to figure out what caused this fire. We know that surveillance footage has been turned over, including video from each of the cars, which could prove vital to understanding what happened here, because each vehicle has its own camera system that works even when the car is off, and 16 cars burned in this fire, and right now investigators don't know what caused it.
Various reasons were given: falling sales, supply chain vulnerabilities, concerns about the autopilot, and the loss of international markets. But the essence was different. Trust was gone. And when trust disappears, money follows. Dealers refused to take Tesla cars in trade-ins. Leasing companies cut the residual value by 30%. Credit institutions refused to finance the purchase of the Model Y, considering it an unstable asset. All this happened not over the course of years, but in 2 quarters.
After Trump imposed those sweeping 25% tariffs on aluminum and steel imports, the European Union retaliating with tariffs on up to $28 billion of U.S. goods. Trump making it clear this isn't over, vowing to respond in kind with sweeping retaliatory tariffs early next month.
They're doing what they should be doing, perhaps, for the European Union, but it does create ill will. And as you know, we're going to be doing reciprocal tariffs. So whatever they charge us, we're charging them.
Canada also striking back with new tariffs on $20 billion worth of U.S. goods, mostly steel and aluminum, but also computers and sporting goods.
The administration's new course began with the most important thing: the redistribution of federal subsidies. The electric vehicle support program was completely rewritten. From now on, priority would be given to companies that manufacture at least 75% of their components in the United States. On paper, Tesla complied, but in practice it did not. Battery production in China, parts from German and Korean suppliers, software components from offshore contractors, all this became grounds for rejection. Tesla was removed from the list of recipients of federal benefits.
KTLA Samantha Cortese joins us live with more on the wave of vandalism in protest of Elon Musk and his role in Washington. Sam?
Hi, Sharon, Micah. The ATF and FBI are collaborating with federal, state, and local law enforcement to investigate acts of domestic terrorism surrounding Teslas.
Ford and General Motors, on the other hand, were honored. Their new products were ceremoniously presented at the White House, and they were awarded grants $600 million for the Michigan EV plant and another $520 million for battery technology development. Tesla did not receive a single dollar. Moreover, the company was no longer mentioned as an innovative partner in federal reports and documents. It began to be referred to as a risky structure with foreign dependence.
But they are not ruling out the possibility that this was arson. At the same time, as you just mentioned, there are groups that have been organizing ongoing and peaceful protests at Tesla dealerships around the world. These demonstrations targeting Elon Musk and his affiliation with the Trump administration. Also, Italy's prime minister is said to be close friends with Musk, and there were reports that Teslas have been vandalized in her hometown in Italy. Diane.
Today, Tesla is a brand that people are renouncing. These are cars that are no longer desirable. It is a logo that is covered up at service centers to avoid provoking aggression. Elon Musk, once an icon of progress, has become a symbol of mistrust. And now the main question is not whether Tesla will recover. It is whether it was ever what we believed it to be. When a myth collapses, only silence remains. Silence in empty car dealerships, frozen construction sites, and abandoned offices where work on the future once bustled. Tesla no longer inspires admiration, only questions. Why did those who knew the truth leave? Why did autopilot become a deadly toy? Why did a brand that promised revolution find itself at the epicenter of a cultural, political, and technological disaster? This video is not just a chronicle of the company's downfall. It is a story about how trust destroys as much as losses. And when even former fans abandon the logo and the state turns away without a word, it's no longer a crisis. It's the end of an era. So now we ask you, was Tesla really the future, or was it all just a beautiful illusion?